This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
All right. I'm going to put things out of order since it's 6:01 and do the March and February meeting notes after public speak. Sure. Okay. Which I actually should have done anyway, so I apologize for not doing that. All right. Well, welcome to the Easthampton Affordable and Fair Housing Partnership. It is Thursday, April 25th. It's 6:02 p.m. Before we start public speak, since we have a few guests, I thought it would be helpful to just give a brief description of what the housing partnership is, so that everybody's on the same page. So the Affordable and Fair Housing Partnership is an advisory committee to the city. We are appointed by the mayor and city council. Our mission is to preserve and promote and produce affordable housing in the city. We do not have any financial authority or any permitting authority, so we really are just an advisory committee. We, with the planning department, produce a housing production plan every 4 years that meets the requirements set out by the state of Massachusetts. We use that document to sort of work on different activities around affordable housing. That document's posted on the planning department website. So most of our agenda items are around things that we're working on related to the housing production plan. So I thought that would be just a helpful context. I will open public speak. It is 6:03, so I will give the full 15 minutes that I said we would have in the agenda. We're going to limit folks to 3 minutes each. And then once we get to 15 minutes, we will move on with our agenda. Sound good? All right. Anyone here for public speak? Sure, go ahead.
You start with your name. Oh, I'm Max Swisher. Thank you. I always forget. I live at 8 Jones Drive down in Precinct 5. I'm part of a family, proud to be part of a family that's lived in Easthampton for many decades. And I just wanted to come and support the work that the partnership is doing. I know that there's a lot of people who live in Easthampton who want their homes and their neighborhoods to stay exactly as they are. And in many places, I'm really in favor of that sort of preservation of the community character that we have. But at the same time, especially as I'm noticing people in my neighborhood reaching a more advanced age, I'm finding that folks are having trouble accessing resources that would be a lot easier for them to resource. They're a lot easier for them to access if zoning rules were different and allowed for a little bit more diverse of buildings of all sorts to be created. I know I personally have toyed with the idea of trying to open up some sort of corner store in my front yard. It's not possible, thanks to zoning, but it would be great to be able to serve my community and my immediate neighbors by providing the resources that they need so that they don't need to get in a car and drive all the way to Big Y, which is our closest store. So that's just something that I see going on around me, in addition to many friends of my age who really have trouble finding housing, even though they work in the town. So those are just a couple of things that I see going on that I think taking a close look at our zoning could greatly help. Just a lot of people in the town who are going to appreciate the work that's being done here. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
I'll take someone else from in here, and then I'll alternate with the folks on Zoom. Yeah, go ahead.
So I had the opportunity to attend the last meeting, and I was unfortunately rather disappointed by some of the comments by members of this committee characterizing opposition to the high density housing. And I'm not talking about affordable housing, I'm talking about the high density housing, characterizing some of us as racist, or that we would be opposed to these developments because we were wanting to promote whiteness. And I found that offensive, and once again found another city committee that was disregarding or not even willing to listen to what people had to say, and dismissive before anybody even started talking. So I wanted to first get that out there. I have sent a letter to the city council and to you, Jamie, about that. Secondly, we are opposed to the high density housing, and we are opposed to unmitigated growth. There are huge concerns about an aging water and sewer system. We have amazing farmland that should be preserved and not built all over. And frankly, having lived in a complex as a child, I don't think that that's a positive type of affordable housing to build. I would rather see some extra duplexes made affordable than building some duplexes where people could have a yard and not build 90 units in ugly buildings. The buildings that were proposed for Main Street are absolutely ugly. And just like this Cottage Street building that is up the street, they would look terrible in our city. And that is the character of the community that I think lots of us are talking about. But the character of the community is not the priority that we're concerned about. It is the demand on our infrastructure. It is the loss of farmland. Those are the things we're concerned about, and it has nothing to do with people's ethnicity or whether we want to preserve whiteness. That is just insulting. Thank you.
She's taking her name. What's her name?
Kathy Wazinski.
Is there anybody online that would like to speak? Go ahead, Kathy. Or Patty, I can't tell who's, oh, that's Kathy joining. Patty C, go ahead.
Kathy, K or C? C. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, we can't, you're on mute, Patty.
I'm sorry. I need to unmute. I apologize.
Okay.
I kind of want to second what Kathy said. Some of the comments are offensive, and I am not against housing. I'm not against Easthampton growing, but I want to see it done in a very constructive way so that we grow at a steady pace where we can afford it. And it also supports, the town supports it. Its infrastructure supports it. And I just see this mass housing, all these mass housing proposals when our infrastructure is declining. It's our sewer, our water, they're old systems. Shouldn't we be concentrating on that before housing? And I'm not saying I'm against housing. Everyone wants a place to live, and I'm not against that. But can't we do it in a much smarter way? Can't we grow slowly? I remember I've been a resident of Easthampton for over 40 years. There was a moratorium on building back, I think it was in the early probably maybe the 1990s, somewhere in that era. We had a moratorium because we wanted the town to grow in a constructive manner. We did it slowly and productively, and it worked so well. Why can't we go back to that idea? Not against growing, but let's do it constructively to everyone's advantage. Old residents, new residents, and prospective residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from in person? Go ahead.
Carol Broder, 72 Oliver Street. I'm just a bit confused about all these buildings and all these things going up, that multi-unit things, because attending now several meetings and interest in conservation and preservation and our agricultural land. Some of the spots we're taking up land that can be used for agriculture. As far as the housing for elderly, yeah, I my own capacity of stairs and so forth, we need elderly housing. So I don't think putting markets necessarily helps those elderly people in our neighborhoods. They need the buildings that have for the elderly, and the cost for that. But we have all these schools. I don't understand. This is driving me crazy that these empty schools, day after day, walk by these empty schools. You have multi-units right there in Pepin and Maple, and I forget the other. You have in Ferry Street, all these buildings. You have multiple places for housing. Develop those, fix those first. Don't be taking up agricultural land and conservation. We talk about the bees, initiative and stuff, and native plants and pollinators. We're destroying that with building on new land. And again, the infrastructure, I agree with that completely. We're failing. You can build buildings and they leave them to dump. And so you've got your goal, you've built your buildings, you build your housing, and then what are they left at? I'm just opposed to a lot of these multi-housing things that are going up when you have buildings that you can fix right now for people to live in.
Thank you. Anybody else online want to speak? Okay, I'll go back to the room. Anybody else in person?
Rachel Harden, Emerald Place in New City. I'm a little new to the discussion here. I'm excited to hear what everybody is discussing as well. What I, as a citizen, am kind of getting is, and it may be a communication issue, but I feel like there's different committees that are doing different projects, and the city as a whole isn't necessarily looking at how these are all going to dovetail together. So, for example, I know Main Street, there's up here in the center of town, there's this goal of reducing traffic flow. But then we're talking about big multi-unit developments on Ferry Street, over here on 10 going towards Big Y, out behind where Tasty Top used to be. And even encouraging biking and pedestrian traffic, that's still going to dump a lot of vehicles into that center of town. So to me, just kind of looking at what's happening in Easthampton, I have concerns that these projects are not going to mesh well and aren't going to produce things that are good for the city, but they're going to make more problems as time goes on than aren't necessarily being well. Like the main street here where we're trying to reduce traffic, that's not just our town main street, that is a state route. So to some extent, there are many communities around us where that is the primary route that they have to take. And I know as a citizen living over there, I am seeing traffic back up. And I know we just put in circles and all these things because idling cars are more polluting than cars that keep moving. And now we're doing this and traffic is backing up even more. So now we have idling cars. So like I said, it may be somewhat a communication issue between the committees and the town government and the citizens. But that's just, for me, what right now is the biggest concern that I have is that these projects don't seem to be taking into account. We want more people. We need better availability for those people to move from place to place. If we want to limit cars, then we need to think about not growing. Obviously, we have to grow, like multi-generations and people moving in, but not putting all these high volume things in at the same time. And that is, I'm interested to see what the committee has to say. I'm new to listening to it, but that's just a thing that I personally have seen.
Anybody online want to speak? Okay, anybody? We have about 5 minutes left. Anybody else in the room? Sure, go ahead.
Talking about the traffic. The road, I don't know what road that is, but it comes out.
I'm sorry, is this your public speak time? We don't, are you asking us a question?
Yeah, I'm asking because we're trying to describe where the street is so you can answer it.
Can't answer a question during public speak.
Yeah.
Oh, they can't. Ah, okay, I guess that stops the question. Okay.
Do you want to speak?
Well, I want to say that there's a bad situation in the center, I guess that's the center of town, where there's two lanes and one lane is too small. You know, it's both going in the same directions. And one lane is really, really small. And the other day, a truck was coming up close beside me and I couldn't even fit where I needed to fit for the two lanes. I was like, so why did they do that? It's dangerous there. And it's where the loops are, those loops, you know, I don't know what they're called, but I've never seen. No, they're metal, I think, and they're by the pizza place. So it's real dangerous there. there's a couple spots there that are pretty bad for, they're like an accident waiting to happen, that's all I can say. Yeah, I was surprised they did it that narrow. And
Just give
there's
us
a
your
bike
name
path
for the
there.
record.
Pam Hibbert. Yep, there's a bike path there too, so you're endangering cars and bikes, and it's real small. It's not doable. I just couldn't believe they did that. I was like, wow, what was that about? Yeah, somebody's gonna get killed, really. It's that bad.
Right, it's 6:16, so we have time for one more person. Is there anyone online that wants to speak? Elodie?
I'd like to speak. Hi, my name's Elodie Chickwin. I've been a resident of Easthampton for 47 years. And I would like to speak on behalf of agricultural lands and preservation of agricultural land and against high density housing I would like to encourage being conscientious of developing in a way that preserves land and our natural resources and beautiful spaces here in Easthampton. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else?
I do want to say something else too about that, about the same subject, but I understand there's a lot of development going to be going on in areas that I thought were land preserved for natural resource, not to build on, but they're environmentally, they're not supposed to be built on. And they're talking about building in those areas. And I always thought the environmental thing takes precedence, like there's swamplands or things like that. And I was like, wait a minute, isn't this a preserve for birds or whatever? All of a sudden, no, we don't need the birds anymore. We don't need, it seems like it's going too fast. Everything being done. They're worried about a grant. Oh, if we don't do this right away, we're not going to get a grant. I kind of felt that at another meeting I was at the other night. Everybody was really worried about getting this grant and this money, but yet, and then one of the contractors, and I might be mistaken about that, he talked and I thought he said he was owed money. So if he's owed money, why are we not paying him? If we were a contractor, my husband was a contractor building houses, and I know that you have to have certain things stamped, like a rotary should be a certain way so buses and stuff don't have to go up on top of it. And that's happened. I've seen that by the school, which makes me really scary that a bus is going to tip over and the little kids are going to be harmed, and the bus driver and whoever else is involved. But it seems a lot of things are going really fast here and they're not being careful with it. And it's going to cause some harm to people. That's a big concern I have. Like, why do we need this grant so bad that we, let's slow down a little, be cautious about it.
Right, it is 6:19, so I'm going to close the public speak. Thank you to everybody who came. Welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. But we're going to move on. Other partnership members, and then to approve the February and March meeting notes, which I sent to you the other day. Thank you, Jackie, for doing March. Does anyone have a chance to look at them?
I make a motion to accept the minutes for February and March.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Right.
Okay, great. All right. So next, just big thing on the agenda is just our continued discussion of zoning amendments and changes. Jamie sent us some notes about family definition, which we had talked about a couple meetings ago. So I don't know if we want to do that first. Or if anyone else, Shira's not here, so we don't have an update on her project. I can give an update on the community character chart. I don't know if you have any updates on the fair housing piece. Yeah. All right, so let's talk about family definition. Let me just get James.
When did that get sent?
Sent it on Monday afternoon, maybe?
Okay. And I think this came up because it's in the definition section.
Correct.
So let me open that too. It's definition of household.
Definition of family.
So currently, as a reminder, the definition of family in the zoning says a number of individuals related by blood, marriage, and or adoption, or a group of unrelated individuals not to exceed 4, who are occupying a dwelling unit and living as a single nonprofit housekeeping unit. No, nonprofit. Permitted. I thought that was right. This definition, however, does not apply to non-related disabled persons as defined by any applicable federal and or state law and or regulation. So, and this was at the February meeting, I think we had a conversation about why do we have this definition? It seems arbitrary, and who came up with it? So Jamie did send us some alternatives from other communities and a whole lot of other like resource materials.
Yeah, so what this comes down to is it's essentially, it has discriminatory impact on groups of individuals that are living together that are not related by blood or marriage, and to limit it to, you could have any number of people living together if they're related by blood or marriage, adoption, things like that. But as soon as you start to have more than 4 people unrelated, you can, under zoning, they can be essentially kicked out of their housing or told to move out from where they live. Did we just lose everyone online?
Oh, it's just they're right there.
Okay.
I'm still here.
The other day. It's thinking.
Okay, so the screen's gone, but the camera's still working and everyone online can still hear us?
Can you still hear us and see us?
I can see you and hear you. Yeah.
I can't
Okay.
hear Ben, but.
We can't hear it.
Yeah, we can't hear you all.
Okay.
Oh, now we
Now we
can.
can.
Okay.
Okay. Sounds good.
It's the TV.
But you heard me.
I can hear you. Yep. I've been hearing you.
Great. So a number of communities have, and this has had far-reaching impact over many years for many communities, not just in Massachusetts. There's a court case going back to the 90s regarding 7 nuns who wanted to live together, who weren't allowed to. There's a group of people who tried in Connecticut to purchase a home in one of the suburbs. And it was a non-traditional family structure that had like 3 or 4 adults and a bunch of different kids. And it was like a big McMansion. And they were eventually settled, but for a while they were essentially losing their home because the zoning said they couldn't have more than 4 people. So a number of communities have dealt with this a number of different ways. The most sort of easiest way to deal with this is to just remove the definition of family entirely. It doesn't, or to modify it to a definition that is not based on a number, but essentially basically saying that it's a group of people living together as a family unit, or, shares, sharing resources and things like that. And leaving the occupancy of the building to building code, which, and health code, so that, that's not overcrowded, because we're not trying to create unsafe or unsanitary housing. So that's essentially what that bunch of emails were. A bunch of different Massachusetts communities had said, this is how we resolve this issue, and sort of leaving it to building code and health code to deal with the overcrowding issues is, we have not had an issue in Easthampton in the 12 years that I've been here, where I know of this being enforced, but it does happen periodically, and I think, better to be proactive and address this now.
So I looked through all of that stuff that you sent us, Jana, and I actually really liked the Lexington and Medford ways in which they were handling this. So they basically said we don't use the term family any longer. We use the terminology of a household and define it as one or more individuals living together in a single housekeeping unit and occupying one dwelling or rooming unit. And in Medford, they eliminated family and just said all the people who occupy a single housing unit, regardless of their relationship to one another. So there's no requirement that people are related by blood or adoption or marriage or whatever. And it just allows individuals to say, we live here, this is our home, this is our house. And not necessarily. I mean, I think you said us a bunch of stuff related to student housing. That doesn't seem to be an issue here. The student housing issue is not, we're not experiencing that kind of overcrowding or noise complaints, that kind of thing. So I like to, I don't know what other people think about that, but I like that approach.
Want to see which town it was again?
Lexington and Medford. Eliminated family altogether.
One thing that I wonder about, because the word family shows up 158 times in the zoning ordinance around other things like multifamily, single family. So if we take out the definition if we eliminate the definition of family altogether, does that complicate the other definitions that are referring back to family?
Can we change it to single domicile?
I mean, that may be, or I would define family as something like household, like Bedford or Lexington have, but I just wonder if we took out family altogether, does that then call into question, well, what does single family mean? Or what does multifamily? I don't know.
Why wouldn't it be the same thing, single household?
Well, we could, we could
Or multi-household.
change all the references to family.
Yeah.
Which might be another way to go. It comes up a bunch, but it's all just mostly related to defining multifamily, single family,
Or you could
family
just,
daycare.
yeah, you could,
It really should be home daycare, not family daycare.
you could define family differently. You could say, family is all the people who occupy a single housing unit, regardless of their relationship to one another. You just, instead of removing the term and then it's just like family daycare, then it's daycare and household.
I believe under building code, single family and multifamily and duplex have
Their own definition.
they have their own definitions. So they're not single family, two family, duplex, and multifamily are not currently defined in our ordinance, but we still use them in the ordinance.
Right.
Similarly, we could continue to use the word family, but not define it, or just to define it by removing that number. But the idea is that the difference between a single family is one group of people living in one housing unit, and multifamily or duplex being two families living side by side, or they're not two separate groups of people. Multiple separate groups.
Yeah. Ben, what do you think?
Yeah, thanks. I was glad Jamie brought up the building. I was going to ask about the building code definition and just thinking maybe that might be something good to just look into a little bit further and maybe use that as a fallback option as, just what is in terms of life safety and public health, how many, I'm sure the building code says something about how many people are supposed to live in a certain square footage or are meant to live in a certain square footage, and maybe just referencing that as opposed to talking about numbers of unrelated people living in a unit, and maybe just I I would agree. Maybe just instead of using the word single family, multifamily, just like single unit or multi-unit. It's really about, and then it goes back to the definition of a unit, which I think we talked about a few meetings ago, which is, having like a kitchen and bedrooms and bathrooms, or, that gets, we then have to get into defining what that means. But, I would support, kind of moving away from the definition of family that we have now, and maybe looking into the building code as an option.
So there is that, the sanitary code.
Right.
400 minimum square footage. That's included in that, list of emails that Janet gave us. And that defines every dwelling unit shall contain at least 150 square feet of floor space for its first occupant, at least 100 square feet of floor space for each additional occupant. So they're looking at, in the dwelling unit itself, the sleeping purposes, you have to have this much space. So that kind of, it limits the number of people that can be in a unit without, defining how they're related to each other, or putting any cap on the number of occupants, as long as there's, sufficient specific square footage to comply with this statute or with the code.
And the building code includes sleeping areas, include things other than bedroom. So you can, like, the living room's a sleeping area, the dining room's a sleeping area. So like it's much more like, you could put technically, like, I think have quite a few people living in a unit and still meet the building code, because you could have people living in the living room. Like, that's not against the building code.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's like, I think it would cover, right? We don't have to, it defines it already, so we don't have to get into it too much.
Yeah, right. I agree.
So what are we deciding? Are we going to take out the definition of family entirely? Is that what we're leaning towards?
I think that makes sense.
Do we want to then mess with single family as a thing and change it to single unit, or just leave it alone?
I guess I would defer.
5 times. But who's counting? Word is counting. Microsoft Word. Well, I'm sorry, Ben, go ahead.
No, I guess I would just, seeing as this, like, maybe, like, the words single family and multifamily are pretty, used pretty regularly by developers. And so maybe it's just like keeping it consistent might be good. So we're not confusing anyone in terms of, what a single unit is versus single family house. And, I don't know, I guess I would be curious maybe what other cities and towns do that have removed the definition of family. Do they still use the word single family or not as a household?
And in our zoning, a word that's not defined in our definitions, it goes to the Merriam-Webster 3rd edition. And before my computer just ran out of batteries, I was looking, and Merriam-Webster has a bunch of definitions of family, but none of them relate to a number, right? And so they talk about how, family could be clan, or family could be a group of individuals living together, usually related, but not always. Like, so it doesn't limit us in the same way. And I agree that trying to go through and renaming single family to single unit throughout the whole code is gonna have some unintended consequences with, developers and how people colloquially refer to like a single family home. So, I would push to either amend the definition so it doesn't have that disparate impact between related and unrelated people, or I guess removing it, but I think that's less, it'd be better just to like amend the definition, I think.
than we're living in.
Yeah, couldn't we just amend the definition to say, instead of replacing it with household or unit or whatever, all the people who occupy a single housing unit, regardless of their relationship to one another, constitutes a family. And then you don't have to change, single family,
Right.
Multiplexes, you don't have to change any of that. You're just saying that if people live together. We're going to consider them to be in a single housing unit. We're going to consider them a family under the.
So that's Medford's definition. All the people who occupy a single housing unit regardless of their relationship to one another.
That's the Medford, and Lexington is one or more individuals living together as a single housekeeping unit and occupying one dwelling or rooming unit.
What concerns me about the Lexington one is the housekeeping. Like I feel like that's like a can of worms, I feel like.
More words than we need.
Yeah, right. I agree.
So I like the Medford one because I think it's just like simple.
Right. All the people who occupy a single housing unit, regardless of their relationship to one another. So they don't have to cook together.
Right. They don't have to share food. They don't have to share
expenses,
chores.
or they don't have to be, multiple owners.
Yeah. Well, because there are some like the SNAP program, for example, does like if you are two unrelated people applying for SNAP, like they do ask, like, do you share food? Do you go grocery shopping? So I guess look at like asks too many.
It does get down a rabbit hole.
So I feel like if we just keep it clean, like Medford's, then
Yeah.
Do we need to vote, or do we want to?
Well, I think we decided we were going to put everything together and then like vote
all of it?
because we obviously like just for the public's sake, like we don't actually get to decide any of this. So we're just making recommendations. So we're going to bring this to city council and we fully expect that we will probably not get everything that we're asking for. So like our goal in this project is to like dream big and see what happens. So just to be clear, like this is our recommendation, doesn't mean that it's going to happen. All right. Madam Secretary, have you duly noted this? Okay.
So all the people who occupy a single housing unit, regardless of their relationship to one another.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay. So that's done. Kayam and Ben's piece is done. Ben, you weren't here when you Kayam presented your fantastic PowerPoint presentation. So thank you for all that hard work.
I listened to the meeting or the recording the other day and thought the discussion was really, really good and Kayam did a great job presenting. So excited about that.
Yeah, here too. That's great.
I guess I was curious about the next steps. Is there, do we have a kind of resolution on the dimensional kind of regulation piece of it, or is that still something we need to talk about?
Remind me what that was. This was.
Yeah, no, it was just looking at kind of the existing zoning in the residential districts and then kind of what is actually built there now and noticing that the zoning actually calls for much less density or requires less density than there is now. So it's, it's much harder to build anything in compared to what is existing. Right. And just wondering if we wanted to, kind of adjust the dimensional regulation so that they better match the neighborhood that exists there now.
How much work is that? Because that feels like a lot.
On one hand, it's just putting some numbers on a piece of paper and presenting it to city council, but to do it right and research it and analyze it carefully is you could spend a whole year probably doing a close analysis of the zoning. But I think we could probably put something forward and have a strong justification for it.
I thought it was a really powerful visual of it, right? That like we kind of say we want we say we want to preserve the character of the community, and yet actually our zoning is in many neighborhoods is like the opposite because it's requiring bigger houses on bigger lots with bigger setbacks than what currently is there. So I think
And bigger price tags.
And bigger price tags. Exactly.
I also compiled a little bit of research that bolsters some of the claims or like some of the reasons why we would be doing that. So I compiled them here and would like to read them into the record if that's okay.
Yeah.
So actually this really interesting study done by Metrotex, which is actually a realtor association in Dallas-Fort Worth, found actually lower infrastructure costs due to smaller, more compacted service areas, less traffic due to residents in higher density neighborhoods tend to need or own fewer cars than their counterparts in single family communities. Lower taxes, since higher density areas are more likely to spread tax assessments among mixed use properties, including retail and commercial, and then more efficient and cost effective school systems and attractive circumstances for employers. And then in 2005, the Urban Land Institute produced a study that suggests or states that there's ample evidence to suggest that well-designed higher density development properly integrated into an existing community can become a significant community asset that adds to the quality of life and property values for existing residents while addressing the needs of a growing and changing population, which sounds familiar. And then actually a Boston study in 2021 conducted or stated that in addition to increasing property values, loosening housing density controls has a secondary benefit of reducing rental rates, which I thought was interesting. And then also the 2021 study by HUD concluded or agreed with this study and went further, saying that the opposite is also true, that tighter density controls create rising rents. So I just thought that all that was interesting context. Mm-hmm.
That is interesting. I think what I might propose that we do as we like keep talking about all these things, like, and then, you know, if we have an unresolved question about the dimensions, is that we maybe schedule a longer meeting or a like more specific meeting in like maybe for June, where like we try to wrap this up.
Mm-hmm.
And like figure out like what are we really, how are we presenting this? What are we presenting? What are all the pieces? And so then maybe we like hammer out some of those unanswered issues. And like really prepare ourselves to like have that longer conversation, if that makes sense.
I have a question. Jamie, I feel like, did you send us something that had, so Lindsay and I are working on the fair housing issues. Was there something that you sent that had some stuff highlighted that we missed on our first kind of pass? Or am I remembering it wrong?
I did do something, but I
I'll
do
find
not
it.
remember.
No worries, we'll find it.
So that was like,
Okay,
3 or 4 months ago, maybe.
yeah, I'll find it.
We talked about it in February when I had to rewatch the meeting to write the meeting notes. There was a whole conversation about it.
I know that family was one of the things that came out of it.
There was the piece about the mortgages that we
Yeah.
talked about, but there was also some other section that was wonky.
Yes. And I can't remember it off the top of my head, but I can go back and look.
I feel like mostly what I did with that one was highlighting every instance of like community character.
That was Jana's piece.
That's I have a whole chart.
So maybe I didn't do
I'm
that.
not entirely done with all of that.
I don't think I saw that either. I wasn't on the committee then, so maybe if you could send it to me. Or if I saw it, I might not have known what it was.
Yeah.
Master
We're still coming up to
list
speed.
of what we were working on. Okay. All right, so fair housing is still in process. I need to check in with Shira about the parking because we haven't seen Shira in a while, and
Yeah,
so I
true.
need to know. Let's just check in with her. I can go. So I didn't make as much progress on this chart as I had hoped to, but I did work on it a little bit today, and we could try to finish that now if you want. I can log into the meeting and then share my screen. I have to log in. That's not how there's One second.
Need to meet your son. So the echoes.
Yeah, it's gone, right? Okay.
Yes, yes.
All right. All right. So here is the chart of the, I don't know, 20 something instances, or maybe it's a little bit less, where it says residential character. And so, or community character, or some rendition of that. So I started, I'm gonna make this bigger. In some cases, I actually don't even think we need it. I feel like it just like adds words that aren't necessary because in other, so for example, home modification, it basically says all the things that it doesn't want to have happen. Does not create nuisances, including but not limited to the emission of blah, 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 glare, noise, or vibrations, or increased traffic. So I would suggest we just take it out.
Where's this one?
This is the top one. So it's in definitions under home occupation. Because in my opinion, the rest of it kind of describes all the things that we don't want it to do. And so then it's just adding something that's not defined.
Right.
You want me to keep going? Okay. Next one is I just can't. Talking about building size cap for retail uses. So it's basically saying encouraging new retail development that enhances the district's character. I just said like enhances the city's, I just took it out. Enhances the city's primary commercial zones.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just as arbitrary.
It's just as, and it just doesn't, I don't feel like it's
anything.
adding any value there. But now my computer's frozen. So hold on, you can see it, but it's asking me to stop sharing.
Well, let's see if that helps.
Okay, let me close this. The zone, having the zoning ordinance also open somehow makes this computer mad.
They think they're supposed all of us mad.
Why? Last time. Sorry, everybody. Not very efficient use of everyone's time to watch me develop.
I feel like that's a common, just it's an ongoing theme in city meetings.
Well, it other things too. No, it's kids out there calling like share it just in case.
All right. Oh, some of these I didn't finish because I couldn't decide. So let's skip those for a minute. So section 7.4 smart growth zoning overlay district, right? This is an important one. So the purpose is to, number C, which is on the second page, to create affordable housing that is consistent with the character of Easthampton's existing neighborhoods. So my suggestion, which maybe you can't see, is to create affordable housing that is consistent with the architectural style of the existing neighborhoods to the extent feasible. Because in some time, some neighborhoods don't actually have a consistent character. I feel like this, I don't know. What do people think?
No, I think that makes sense.
I like the mention of architectural style, because I think that that's often what's missing and what a lot of people don't.
what the intent was.
I think that's what the
But
intent is.
architectural character is really hard because we don't have design review boards
Right.
and we don't necessarily have architects, like architectural historians, people who are like, so we're going back to, we're saying architectural style, but that's just another way of saying character of like, well, we don't like that it has, whatever.
I like it just more explicitly points to the looks of buildings rather than like the impact on the broader community.
Yep.
Which, I don't know, I think is.
No, I think that.
All right, we'll good fine. All right, I skipped that one for now. The section about multifamily housing, building design should, this is in the multifamily housing zoning. So it says building design should consider the prevailing character and scale of the buildings and the neighborhood. And we had a conversation about whether we should strike it entirely because I think there's other parts of the zoning that talk about how many units you can have. And like, I think this is where the 18 unit per building cap comes in, which we were also supposed to look at. I don't think we have yet. I think that was on, I think that's on Shira's list.
Yeah, and parking.
Okay. So, I mean, I don't know. We could change it. So again, it doesn't talk about, say the word character, just say consider the prevailing scale of the buildings in the neighborhood. Or we could take it out entirely because I think it's also otherwise covered.
But it also doesn't, I mean, on this one, when I read this, it says building design should consider the prevailing character and scale of the buildings in the neighborhood. It doesn't,
So you have to.
it doesn't that you have to, and like, it's not a criteria that the boards would look at necessarily to be like, well, it doesn't, you want an 18 unit building, but it can only be 2 stories. Like, I don't know. It's,
One of the things we were talking about last time was making sure that the dwelling, the building that you're constructing makes sense in terms of like the size of the property. Trying to remember. I just wrote about this in the minutes. Was making sure that so we have a plot of land, what is actually feasible to build on there? If you're a developer, and how do we make it actually work in all the ways it needs to work? So.
and like a lot of these, like in a lot of our districts, the building heights are limited, let's say to 40 feet or 2.5 stories. So if like in the downtown here, we're limited to 90 feet and 5 stories. But if you have to stay with the like character of the downtown, you'd be limited to 3 stories. But like the zoning allows 9.
So it's a contradictory thing, sort of. So.
Yeah, so maybe it goes back to the suggestion just to remove it.
Well, I'm just looking at what the rest of it says, right? So it talks about the dimensional requirements. The maximum number of units per structure shall be 18, which I've been looking anyway. Siting and layout requirements. So it has to be integrated to the existing terrain and surrounding landscapes, blah, blah, blah. More than one structure may be placed on the lot, but no residential structure shall be placed closer to each other than 10 feet. It must be visually separated by trees. No dwelling shall be permitted on the street level in the downtown business district. Then it has this it's only one thing for design requirements. This is just the one paragraph. And then it goes on to pedestrian and vehicular access requirements. So I just wonder, does anyone use it to make decisions? Incorporate the use of appropriate building materials, screening, breaks in roof and wall lines, and other architectural techniques. But it just says should consider, should be used.
Like a good design professional is going to consider all this stuff.
Right.
But like, a board making a decision is going to be like, did you consider this? And then they're like, yeah, we considered it and it wasn't feasible. And this is why we're proposing something else. And then that's.
It was just amended in 2021. Do you remember what was amended about it?
Yeah, I saw that too.
That section A.
Yeah, that whole section was amended.
I don't know.
Preserved as open space and be made available for active and passive recreation. Board may require.
That part was, but the design requirements was also amended. Do you remember, Connie?
I wasn't here then.
I'll find it. Give me a minute. Just gives me the ick.
All right, well, let's,
But, yeah.
we can take it out, but let's move.
When was the date? 2021?
2021. Well, Jamie looks for that. We can move on. This is about accessory dwelling units. Next one. Purpose of the accessory dwelling unit ordinance is to protect the stability, property values, and the residential character of a neighborhood by ensuring that accessory apartments are created only in accordance with this ordinance. I'm suggesting architectural character again. I mean, I guess Jamie's saying architectural character is also not very helpful, but I just feel like it's like more specific than just saying residential character.
Right.
If we're talking about what the houses around it look like, then it should be clear that that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's not it.
ADUs.
This is for accessory dwelling units, yeah. 8.5.
Oh, okay. Protect stability, property values.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, what?
So my suggestion is we say architectural character instead of residential character.
Oh, I see. Okay. Mhm. Got it. Sorry, I just got lost for a minute
Yeah,
trying
well,
to find this
It's under
section.
multifamily.
It's multifamily, the design requirements 8.332. That's what was approved in amended in 2021.
You're gonna send your chart out.
Yeah. Okay. This is on planned unit residential development. Now, I think this is the one that Jess suggested we look to see if anyone's actually ever used it and whether or not we even need to have a whole
So-
section about this.
If you'd like, I can read you what was there before.
Yeah, can you read us what was there?
Do you want to go back to what's there now?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so it said, buildings shall be in harmony with the prevailing character and scale of buildings in the neighborhood and the city through the use of appropriate building materials, screening, breaks in roof and wall lines, and other architectural techniques. Variation in detail, form, and siding shall be used to provide visual interest and avoid monotony. Proposed buildings shall relate harmoniously to each other with adequate light, air circulation, and separation between buildings.
So it took out the term harmoniously twice. It was in there twice.
Okay. So it replaced harmoniously with consider.
Well, I like the updated version better, but I still don't think we need it.
No, I know.
Should we just strike it? Was that a recommendation?
So it's just so getting rid of the.
We would just get rid of the design requirements.
I feel like there's gotta be
Well, no, so
some
the rest
best
is.
practices document we could pull something from that's better than this, like just
Okay.
how to.
I do think that the design requirements are always really tricky because like I said, we don't have design review boards and we don't have, the planning board is primarily folks who are like not architects or necessarily knowing how to like look to see whether or not it's monotonous or, it has a lot of differences in building types. And we get, if someone's building a single family housing development and they just go, here's the building, here's the same building, here's the same building, here's the same building, here's the same building. That developer doesn't have to meet.
I was gonna say that gets approved.
Right. And like, that's like a monotonous single family type of little boxes development.
Well, I think that's kind of like one of the bigger problems, right? Is that only these apply to only certain kinds of housing. Right. If you want to build a big subdivision. However you want as well. We don't have any other design requirements in any other sections. It's just in the multifamily zoning. Is that true? I'm just wondering if we can if
There's
there's
probably some.
a better one in another section, they should just be the same instead of there being different ones for different sections.
There's probably something in from like mixed use developments or planned unit developments. Highway Business District, I think, had some.
Okay, I'm just gonna make a note to look at another section. I don't want to open it now because it makes my computer mad when I have the other one open. All right, so we're gonna hold that one for now. All right, I'm moving on to the planned unit residential development for affordable housing, which this is the also one that we question whether or not anyone ever uses. Says the purpose of the ordinance is to maintain and replicate the traditional New England rural character and land use pattern. And I'm suggesting it say maintain and replicate the traditional New England, just say New England land use pattern and just take out rural character. So it would say maintain and replicate the traditional New England land use pattern in which small villages are adjacent to common open space. Sure. Which is basically what it's trying to say anyway, is that it wants to make and just take out the rural character reference. So I don't think it's needed anyway, because then it goes on to describe what it is that it wants it to look like. I'm gonna skip that one because I didn't get to it yet. Open space residential development. This is about that low power. Isn't it plugged in?
Battery charging may be unreliable.
It's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
I think I'm suggesting we strike out compatibility with the character because I feel like it's talked about in the other sections. So it says it's intended that the open space residential development be developed as an entity in which alternative pattern of development may be permitted in order to gain the following benefits: more efficient use of land in harmony. Apparently harmony is a word that we enjoy in our zoning ordinance.
Another just arbitrary.
The preservation of open space and the promotion of aesthetics and other amenities in the efficient use of land to increase the options for diverse and affordable housing. Hi, Reggie.
She seems frozen. Yeah. She
does.
She's frozen. Her hand up. All right.
So my suggestion is we strike it out because I don't know that it's necessary because it's talking about the other efficient use of land, preservation of open space, and efficient use of land in harmony with its natural features, which I think is kind of weird, but not the focus of our project. So I
think she's on frozen.
Oh, Lindsay, are you there? Do you have your hand up?
No, I don't have my hand up, but I'm sorry.
Okay.
I can't put it. Oh, I see how to put it down. Okay.
She's just waving at us. Or we could say compatibility with the, or again, use the term architectural character.
Oh, I think you can strike it. You've got all this other stuff in there, the more efficient natural features, open space, compatible, diverse and affordable housing, protection of natural resources, including water bodies and wetlands, agricultural lands, wildlife habitats, protection of the aquifer.
Yeah, and honestly, the open space residential development is like, it's a way to have higher density housing by preserving open space.
Yeah.
So
then saying have the compatibility of the surrounding neighborhood doesn't make sense anyway.
Yeah.
Right. This is in the same section, I think, just 9.3, might be out of order. That will not have a detrimental impact on the integrity of character of surrounding neighborhoods or adjoining zones. I was going to suggest architectural character, but we could also just strike it if, in fact, we look at the whole thing and maybe it makes more sense.
918.
It's 9, yeah.
we might lose this.
Where's the plug? Or is it the plug?
It's just that it's a low power charger, so it's not charging while it's running.
City of Easthampton.
I might have a power.
It must be for the Chromebook.
I can even plug it in just like you plug into an outlet. Oh, I don't know.
Is there one over there? I assume this was all, you know.
So the rest of this section, after, I didn't copy it all in here, but it says that is designed with due consideration for the health, safety, and welfare of the public, that is preferable to a conventional plan of preserving open.
I'm sorry, you've muted yourself. We can't hear you.
Your volume back on.
Okay.
You have, okay.
Hi, everybody. We're experiencing some technical difficulties.
Directly connect.
Can you hear me? I don't think
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Oh, you can hear me now? Okay. Hold on. The city's laptop died.
Ah, gotcha.
Is this somehow audio?
Yeah.
Jamie needs to move to IT. She can do that.
Yeah. Can you all hear me?
Ben, are you there?
Yeah, I can hear.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Can you see
Oh,
us?
I hear myself now. Weird.
To avoid them, you don't need to share. Share just a tab.
So you're now, you don't need to use your separate. So this is now, if you can change your camera to,
Oh, to like stare at Kayam?
I don't know if you have an option to change your camera.
How would I, well, how would I know? Yeah.
Oh, go to connect with the camera above there.
Yeah. The settings are on the bottom, I think.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to look at you. In two places. Yeah.
Did it work? It did.
Oh, good. Yes, I see the room now.
Yeah.
It's all blurry.
A little blurry. Yeah.
Can you read the room?
It has like visual effects.
Put the ears on us all.
Oh, it has a blur.
I don't know, which one's none?
It's my cats. Yeah, it's got a, right? It's blurry.
I have someone I have a meeting with all the time, and he's always this weird raccoon avatar. And I'm like, Phil, I can't.
I can't take you seriously. Can you do that? I'm not a cat.
All right, everybody can see us? All right, I'm gonna go back to sharing my window because we're almost done, I think.
So while you're, oh, you got it up there.
Yep.
I just wanted to point out that Dwight Merriam, who wrote 2 of these articles that Jamie sent us, is a UMass alum, who I know.
Oh.
He wrote the book on zoning. He also gives a very generous scholarship. Maybe he doesn't anymore, but he used to.
All right, so we were talking about this one, which is under 9 point something. And so it goes, the rest of the section, which I did not paste here, then goes on to say, so it's the part above it, it says that will be in harmony with the intent and spirit of the law, will not have a detrimental impact on the integrity of the character, is designed with due consideration for the health, safety, and welfare of the public. It's preferable to a conventional plan in preserving open space, minimizing environmental disruption and impacts of city services. and it allows for a greater diversity in affordable housing types. So I would suggest actually that we just strike this because it goes on.
Because it defines it.
It goes on to talk about all the things that we want it to do and not want it to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's.
Transfer of development rights. I thought this was okay because it talks about historic and agricultural character of the community. So I thought it was like, it defines what character it's talking about. Home occupations. I'm suggesting we strike it because it goes on to say protected from adverse impacts such as noise, traffic, and other nuisance issues. Minor home occupations, again, strike it because it, again, describes what it doesn't want it to do, which is glare, light, noise, other nuisances.
Other people.
Yeah, so I don't think we need the term residential character here. It's like the same thing over and over again. I don't know. So it's the same thing. So let's take it out. And then.
So I would argue that for the home occupations, that is about making sure that the residential, like that the home-based business doesn't transform the neighborhood into a non-residential neighborhood. And so that it's like the neighborhood character, residential character is like kind of important for determining whether or not the home-based business is going to have an impact on the neighborhood.
But do you think that's covered by residential quality of life?
Well, for example, if you read the standards for minor home occupations, it says, no use shall be allowed that causes the exterior appearance, right? That's about what it looks like on the outside, which is what you're talking about, right? So if it's all in there saying we don't want it to make, there's a sign ordinance also, so you can't have a giant sign outside your house.
Mm-hmm.
Does that, you know what I'm trying to say? Like if what's already there, aside from the words residential character, covers what we're, what the intent is. Because the intent is not to change the exterior appearance or pollute or have all those other horrible things that we don't want. Is the major home one?
It's the same thing.
Because there are different standards, whether or not you're doing a minor home occupation or major home occupation.
I mean, again, it talks about all the things it doesn't want it to do, plus and or residential use of the other units.
Right.
So I feel like we could take out again the character part.
Yeah, including but not limited to exterior.
So, but let me ask a question about this though. So I, just thinking about in my own personal experience, our financial advisor, for example, she had a porch and she made the porch, it was a small porch, and made it her office. She lived in the house. It was in a residential neighborhood. And we would go and meet her. We'd park in her, her driveway and meet her in her office, which was in her home. But this would exclude her from being able to do that, right? Because minor home occupation shall not be opened by appointment, nor be open to members of the public.
You'd have to.
So,
that's another section.
That'd be a major home occupation, not a minor home occupation. It requires a special permit rather than by right.
Okay.
Minor home occupations are allowed by right because there's no.
So what's the difference between a minor and a major?
Whether or not there's people coming to visit or whether or not there's non-residential employees who don't live in that house.
So if it's a minor home occupation, that would be something like give me an example.
Like my husband is a graphic designer and does freelance work.
Okay.
He just hangs out at home doing his thing.
Okay.
He doesn't have, no one comes to the house.
Okay.
He connects with them over Zoom or on the phone.
Okay.
Or
Yeah.
the fix-it, the fix-it guy who has a truck in their driveway, but then doesn't actually do the work at their property. They drive around other people's places to do the work.
But that's his business location.
But that's exactly what a minor home occupation is.
I understand.
That's where banking from your home offices, but you're not like meeting with clients to.
I understand. Thank you.
Commercial development performance standards. I don't remember what my notes say. With other buildings. No, I'm not remembering what my
Jamie,
notes.
does the planning board actually do those things that are highlighted?
Your turn.
I don't know if the planning board actually looks at. Again, this just goes back to like the architectural design standards. They're not
Right.
just necessarily design professionals, and so they typically don't look at, you know, the color of the building, whether or not it has porches or windows
What the
or any
material is on the
articulation or,
siding.
you know, or brick or vinyl, or they're just like, the planning board just like doesn't meet the setback requirements and, you know, isn't allowed use or whatever, so.
So I'm asking that because this specifies that the planning board is supposed to do that, or may take into consideration.
Right.
So I
further specify design standards, but they have the Easthampton facade and sign guidelines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But those are just,
Why do you need all this other stuff? Isn't that what isn't that just duplicative?
so that facade and side guidelines was published in 1985. I've never seen a copy of it. Apparently it's available in my office, but I've never seen it.
A random question. So is it often that a developer will have those choices made when brought to the planning board? Like it's already, the vinyl siding has been chosen?
Yep.
The color, okay.
And this is why people are like, you know, you get the like Dunkin' Donuts cup that comes in, and like in some communities they like have the Dunkin' Donuts that has like the historical.
Right,
But,
in
like,
Williamsburg, they have that,
they
yeah.
have like the historic Dunkin' Donuts that they can put in, but everywhere else they go with their like pink and green or whatever their colors are. I can't. Pink and orange, yeah, it's orange. And they're trying to be noticed and right, and our planning board we go, we don't regulate the color of the building, and things that's not.
Can I get back to the
Which is to say, if it was removed, they want to notice because they don't use that.
Hold on, I'm having technical
They
difficulties.
seem to focus much more on the pragmatic stuff like stormwater and light pollution.
Exactly.
I think what I'm suggesting here, not very eloquently, is to say the architectural design shall be compatible with other buildings in the city of Easthampton. And then I have, I think I need to rework this. But it was like sort of like taking out the character part and then sort of saying, for example, through the appropriate use of building materials, the planning board may take into consideration exterior building facades consistent with Easthampton, other buildings in the city of Easthampton. I think that's what I meant. I don't know. I can't remember, but it's something like that. And I can't get back to it. My computer is so mad. Hold on. Oh, there. I can't see. Well, they can see us. I just can't see them and do this at the same time. And now my computer's going to stop working. I'm going to stop sharing. Hold on. Sorry, everybody.
Was there more to your?
I think I'm almost done.
Okay.
I think it's almost done. Where are our friends? They're there somewhere, I promise. There they are. Okay. Let me just see what else is on here before I open it again, because my computer is getting mad. And these things I thought I closed.
Computer's throwing a tantrum.
Oh, and you can still see it. Didn't I just stop sharing?
You did.
You did. You're not sharing right now.
Yeah, not sharing anymore.
Oh, but you all can just see it up on the screen.
Yeah, everyone in the room here can see it because
Oh, look, there's other random things opening. This is fun.
It's okay. Do whatever you need to do to keep your computer happy.
Opening.
If it's, I know we're almost done with that document. If it's too hard to share it, I can just listen along.
Wait. Yes, I want to view these files later.
Yeah, because you made changes. Otherwise, they would all be lost. Because we're just crashed.
Okay.
Now, when you open it,
Close
you
all your
pray that the
things.
pain is still there.
It's still there, saved at 7-Eleven, which might be, okay. Everybody can see me.
Okay.
Just try and see if I can open it again.
Or we can just,
Because it might be done. I might
Yeah,
almost be
I
done.
think-
And I think we probably are ready to be done anyway for
Yeah.
the night.
Yeah.
There we go.
because we still have to do the other thing that Jeff sent us.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for reminding me of that.
So,
All right.
Okay.
We only have a couple more things. So what I will do is for next time. Oh my God. Yes. Okay, let me go back to everybody. Okay. Yes, I will share it all with you and then we can finalize it next time. Does that sound good?
yes.
All right.
All right, other item.
All right. I have a couple other items that came up after the agenda was circulated. One of them is from Jeff Bagg, our former city planner, is doing some work for the city on a couple grants that are due on June 5th. Which I forwarded you, right? I did forward this.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's looking for support letters from the partnership for these two grant applications, one for Ferry Street and one for Northampton Street. Ferry Street has to do with making improvements to the intersection at Parson Street and Ferry Street,
Great.
which I think it sounds great because everybody
been there.
does not like that intersection.
FYI, if it's not on the agenda, you guys are actually violating open meeting law.
We have an other items thing on
That's
our,
a tricky one. And the city's already been hit once by open meeting law violation.
I think we're going to move forward. It did come in after the agenda was circulated, so that's what other items is for. So again, it's a $4.8 million grant to make improvements at the intersection of Carson Street and Ferry Street. This has to do with the 90 units at 11 Ferry Street that's been permitted, but also obviously improving that intersection is a priority for the city. Northampton Street is also about water service, and this applies specifically to the Sierra Vista project, but also would improve other parcels that are on that property. So does anyone have any, obviously Jeff's not here, but if anyone has any questions, I can certainly go back to him. And we would still have time
because we have another meeting.
because we have another meeting in May.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I definitely don't feel totally comfortable voting on this without an explicit
Mhm.
like agenda item.
Okay.
But yeah, I like having this on the radar.
Okay.
Agreed.
All right. So I'll add it to the May agenda. Does anyone have any questions to go back to Jeff for that would be helpful for the May meeting?
Read it again.
Well, he references the Sierra Vista project.
So we can talk about it more then, but it's two mass work grants, one for Northampton Street, one for Ferry Street. And they're related to water, like the Northampton Street one is increasing the size of the water line to support the development. And the other one's to essentially create a safer pedestrian streetscape in front of the along Ferry Street. And to deal with that sight lines on the corner of Ferry and Park Street, you can't see right now.
Yeah.
That's the city just proactively trying to address some of those infrastructure concerns with grant money, so it's not put on the ratepayers.
Yeah, no, I understand all that. I just had never heard that name.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
we call it the Tasty Top parcel, but that's actually the real name is Sierra Vista Commons. Okay, great. I'll add it for May. The other thing I just wanted to make sure were aware of is the Council on Aging, I'll forward this to you all, is holding a housing forum focused on older adults on Monday, May 13th from 11 to 1:30. They are asking folks to register by April 30th. Lunch is provided. I will be there. I'm not really sure if I'm talking or not. It's not clear.
I was going to be, or I
can pass this around if people
like
see it.
tentatively accepted, but then I found out that I have a graduation thing going on, so I can't go.
Okay.
But I will try to send someone, a
Okay.
representative from the Housing Coalition.
Okay.
I'm just gonna do this, so I
Okay.
can capture it.
There's a whole bunch of speakers, legislators, Keith Ferry from Wayfinders, someone from CHAPLA's coming.
Okay.
So I think the plan is to have a whole panel. The mayor will be there and I will be there. And I think that it's really just there to be like, in case people have questions, but I need to connect with Cynthia to make sure that I'm like prepared for what might come up. But just an FYI, and I'll forward it in case people didn't get it. I think that's everything we have for tonight. Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn. I'll second that.
Right. It is 7:27.
Do we have a next meeting date scheduled?
Oh, yeah, we do. It should be fourth Thursday in May. Let's make sure that that's not like, so it would be May 23rd at 6 p.m. in this room. And then we can talk about it next time, but I want to also suggest that at our June meeting, we try to wrap up
The zoning.
their zoning stuff so that we can then package it up and get ready to submit to city council.
Okay.
Because that will then take a long time to move along. Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody. I'm going to stop the recording.
Did we vote for adjournment?
Oh.
I mean, I guess it doesn't. Might as well since we have so many people here.
Yes. Can I, so we had a motion to adjourn and a second. Can all those in favor of adjourning the meeting?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.